now like to offer a special thank you to the man who rescued Dan Marino and our beloved snowflake, a great humanitarian and a lover of all animals, Mr. Ace Ventura. Get off me! Get off me!
Tone, put that big-ass size 13 on and kick it for the homies.
Just calling my dog, man.
Tricks off for kids and men for tricks, Ace. He's the #1 pet dick. No need for a fireman. When your cat's up a tree, he's the one that you hire, man. Known to bring her back alive if your cat scratch or if your turkey got jive. A little local with cabeza, but still got charm. Brought her back to old McDonald's farm. So hey, diddle, it's late in the park. Chasing more pets than no on his arm. No need for a painter, numbers get deleted. Ace on the case and the job is completed. Simple assignment when I start rhyming. Always tell the truth so you know I'm not lying. Down with the ladies as a lover, undercover. Yo, tell him where he's at, my brother.
Joe Ace in the house. Joe Ace in the house.
Yo, tell him where Ace is at.
Joe Ace in the house.
I don't believe they heard you.
Joe Ace in the house.
Is he all up in the house?
Joe Ace in the house. Joe Ace in the house. Joe Ace in the house.
Well, if Ace is in the house, so must be low. Blowing up like a cloud of smoke. Checking all of his bitches at home. But I'm the dog with the biggest bone. I grip the mic like pliers. No one flyer. Yo,
I was walking through the jungle the other day, dirty great elephant coming my way, bush, bash, bing, bam. Straight, knocked it out. 3 seconds.
A man of strong beliefs.
John Major, leader of my party. I reckon if old Churchill was alive today, he'd be turning in his grave, he would.
A man with principles.
Women's rights, women's... What they ought to have done is left that Mrs. Pankhurst chained to the railings, that's what.
True patriotism.
Instead of having elections every 5 years, what they ought to do is have half-time like a football, all change ends.
And good manners.
Shut up, I ain't got time for that.
An audience with Alf Garnett, Saturday at 9:05 on Yorkshire.
My husband's hair didn't always look this healthy. He used to have dandruff. Some anti-dandruff shampoos didn't leave his hair looking as healthy as he wanted. Then he discovered new Pantene anti-dandruff shampoo.
Its anti-dandruff formula works on the scalp to help get rid of dandruff, while provitamin B5 nourishes at the root and penetrates all the way to the tip.
Now his hair is dandruff-free and healthy looking.
New Pantene Pro V anti-dandruff for hair that looks so healthy it shines.
I work for Royal London. I come from round here, so I know these people really well. And because I know them better, I can advise them better.
Royal London Insurance.
Knowsley Safari Park, a great family day out for only £10, with its mighty herd of African elephants plus lots more. Knowsley Safari Park, only £10 a car.
1,000 kisses from Rimmel. Stays on your list. Kiss after kiss.
Eating Kellogg's All Bran every day makes you feel alive.
You're bringing me back to life. You're bringing me back to life.
Because Kellogg's All Bran is one of the richest sources of fibre. Just one serving has as much fibre as each of these. That's why a regular bowl of Kellogg's All Bran helps keep you healthy on the inside.
You may think all antiperspirants are just as effective. They're not. In tests at this heat, Ultra Dry Shore was proved to make you 20% drier than the nearest competitive aerosol, which probably explains why more people trust Shore than any other antiperspirant. Ultra Dry Shore. It'll never let you down.
So, how much could you do with a D?
With Cheltenham and Gloucester mortgages, there are no valuation fees, no mortgage indemnity premiums. They don't insist you buy their buildings and contents insurance. They don't sell endowment policies. In fact, their mortgages have absolutely no strings attached. But what's really exceptional is that they come with up to £7,500 in cash as a gift. And because C&G mortgages are also available at Lloyds Bank, they're even easier to get hold of. Ring 0800 333 900 and see how Cheltenham and Gloucester is run to make you richer.
At Specsavers Opticians, we know your first visit can be a bit scary. So we like to make you feel welcome. A full eye examination, a choice from a wide range of frames, and with your child's NHS allowance at Specsavers, all this is absolutely free. Specsavers Opticians. Now you can believe your eyes.
The war was over. The battle for the Grand was about to begin.
The Grand's a huge, monstrous building. It's a nightmare, but for all that, it's magnificent.
Beneath the facade, a family crisis.
He's only my brother. When it comes to business, that's irrelevant.
When it came to discretion, the Grand was the last word. Time for change.
What does he think he's doing? Taking control?
I want the money found.
The Grand, compelling new drama. Friday at 9 on Yorkshire.
From the studios of ITN, the news with Dermot Murnaghan.
Good evening, welcome to the programme. Tonight's headlines. Mr Major spells it out to the Conservative Party over sleaze. 17 dead, dozens more injured in Spanish train crash. And an early taste of summer brings out the bank holiday crowds. John Major issued a warning to his party tonight that draconian measures would be taken against any Tory MP who's found guilty of wrongdoing. But in a letter to constituency chairman, he said he wouldn't veto their choice of candidate. Labour accused Mr Major of dithering, and the Liberal Democrats said he'd abandoned all leadership. Our political correspondent, Hugh Pym, reports.
Sleaze marred John Major's birthday celebrations this weekend, so he's telling Tory party associations, it's up to you who you choose as candidates, but be warned. In his letter, he says, I have never condoned wrongdoing and I abhor lapses of behaviour in public life. On the Cash for Questions inquiry, if it criticises Conservative MPs, I for one will wish Parliament to act quickly and decisively to uphold its reputation. But it meant the issue of Neil Hamilton's future was being kicked into touch, according to the Liberal Democrats. Weak leadership, they claimed. Tony Blair, meanwhile, told ITN's 5 News he wouldn't stand for financial wrongdoing by his MPs.
If there are Labour members of Parliament that were doing those things, then we would not expect them to be standing as members of Parliament, in the same way that if I have ministers that are misleading Parliament or lying to Parliament, they shouldn't be ministers.
Earlier at a rally in Kent, Mr Blair said, let's move on to the real issues of the campaign. The Tories are happy to oblige.
People really are now getting a bit tired of the tabloids dictating what the agenda is, and I think they're beginning to ask themselves, when are we going to start talking about what matters in an election?
And this is where the action will begin early tomorrow morning. The Liberal Democrats unveiling their election press conference set with a challenge to the other parties to stop negative campaigning and get on with the real issues. Labour and the Tories will follow soon afterwards in the daily round of press conferences, which will see the campaign moving into top gear. Hugh Pym, ITN, Westminster.
The Shadow Education Secretary David Blunkett warned teachers today that a Labour government would not tolerate industrial action which could wreck its education policies. At the National Union of Teachers Conference in Harrogate, he also announced a task force to raise standards in maths if Labour wins the election. The Tories said Labour had opposed every measure they'd taken to improve standards. A train packed with families returning home after the Easter holiday crashed in northern Spain tonight. At least 17 people were killed and 50 were injured. Howell Jones at ITN reports.
Near a Spanish village, rescuers are working into the night, still searching for survivors of this crash. The train was travelling from Barcelona to the Basque Country when it derailed west of the city of Pamplona. It's not known what caused two of its carriages to slide off the track, though one Spanish police report suggests the train might have been travelling too fast. The victims are thought to include families travelling home from the long Easter holidays. At least 17 passengers are reported dead, and that figure is expected to rise as rescuers pick their way through the wreckage. Their priority now is clear: to find those who might still be trapped. Howell Jones, ITN.
Here, Railtrack investigators have been trying to find out how two teenagers who were killed by a passenger train near Leeds came to be on the line. The two boys, who were aged 13 and 15, were found last night on the main Trans-Pennine line. The driver spotted the boys but couldn't stop the train in time. A scout leader described today how he saw two of his friends crushed to death by a freak rockfall. Marcus Hill said the two men had no chance whatsoever when 10 tons of stone fell on top of them at a campsite in Shropshire. Eric McInnes reports.
The two young men had no chance. Without warning, the rocks above their heads came down. Tons of stone collapsed, perhaps because of the heat of the campfire they'd built in the overhang. The first camp out of the year had ended in disaster. 20-year-old Stuart Perkins and 21-year-old David Weaver died instantly, buried under the rock. When the emergency services arrived, they tried to dig the scout leaders out from beneath the stone with this digger, but it was too late.
Eventually found the bodies, started moving a small amount of rubble. It became very obvious that we weren't going to be able to lift these large rocks.
The scout leader who survived, Marcus Hill, spoke this afternoon at a police press conference.
We actually sat around the fire, just talking, and without warning, the rocks from above just fell on us. No warning whatsoever.
This had always been a popular site for the Scouts. The leaders would come here every year to build a fire to camp out. But after what happened here last night, this particular beauty spot will be remembered for a freak accident, a devastating tragedy that claimed the lives of two young men. Eric McInnes, ITN, Cleobury Mortimer in Shropshire.
The marching season got off to a peaceful start in Northern Ireland today. The Loyalist apprentice boys agreed to use buses and avoid parading through a nationalist area of Belfast where there was violence last year. Here's our Ireland correspondent, John Irvine.
Land Rovers were positioned on the Ormeau Bridge in Belfast to prevent Loyalist apprentice boys marching through a Catholic area. But in the end, no barrier was required, for the marchers chose to avoid confrontation. They turned away from the police lines. And while that angered some of their traditional supporters, it has generally been recognised as a significant conciliatory gesture.
The only thing we've compromised on is that we didn't want a repeat of the violence which occurred here last year.
This was a unilateral decision by the Loyalists, and it in no way represents a resolution of the contentious March issue. It was nevertheless welcomed by the spokesman for local residents who oppose such parades.
We do not need confrontation. Nobody needs it. This community doesn't want it. And I'm glad to see that there's people in the apprentice boys do not want it either.
On the political front, there is speculation here about the possibility of a pre-election IRA ceasefire. It would almost certainly boost Sinn Féin's performance at the polls, and that appears to be of growing significance to Republicans. Today, Martin McGuinness of Sinn Féin described the election as the most important in Northern Ireland since partition in 1921. John Irvine, ITN, Belfast.
The first stage in the trial of the man accused of the Oklahoma bombing has begun amid some of the tightest security ever seen at an American court. Timothy McVeigh will face the death penalty if he's convicted. James Mates reports from the United States.
They've had to move the trial 600 miles from the scene of the crime in order to get a fair hearing. They've surrounded the lawyers, the courtroom, with security second only to that of the Pentagon. And now they have the task of finding 12 jurors whose minds are not already made up. At stake is the liberty and probably the life of this man, Timothy McVeigh. He's a former soldier accused of planting the bomb that killed 168 men, women and children almost 2 years ago. There to watch will be the relatives, determined those who died don't get forgotten in all this.
I want to make sure that people never forget the 168 children, women, and men that lost their lives. Sometimes in a trial, those things get put on the back burner.
Prosecutors have built a formidable case against McVeigh, including fingerprints linking him to the crime. A former friend, Michael Fortier, will testify he heard McVeigh planning the bombing. The defence will point to contamination of evidence gathered at the site and discrepancies in the identity evidence, doubts that are unlikely to get McVeigh acquitted, but may just be enough to escape the death penalty. James Mates, ITN, in the United States.
Arab countries confirmed their decision to recommend a new economic boycott of Israel today in retaliation for its plans to build a Jewish settlement in East Jerusalem. The Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said the idea of a boycott was absurd. Tim Hewitt reports from Jerusalem.
As the Israelis dispensed justice by destroying the home of a Palestinian suicide bomber, the peace process came under new pressure. Palestinian leader Yasser Arafat returned from Cairo with the backing of Arab League foreign ministers who demanded a renewed economic boycott of Israel. It drew a sharp response from the Israeli Prime Minister.
We cannot accept a concept of peace in which we are coerced by political warfare or by the threats of terror, by the threats of violence.
Palestinian youths again clashed with Israeli soldiers in one part of the West Bank. It was an isolated incident and the major flashpoints of the past 2 weeks were quiet. But Mr. Arafat's security chief had a warning for the Israelis if the violence increases.
If the Israelis do try in the future to re-enter the areas of the Palestinian Authority, we will confront that and we will fight back.
For the Palestinians, this disputed hillside near Jerusalem remains the key stumbling block to peace. They want preparations for a Jewish settlement halted. For the peace process to go ahead, there has to be some form of compromise on the question of settlements. It is not impossible, but at the moment there is no sign of it happening. Tim Hewitt, ITN, Jerusalem.
The 40-foot sperm whale nicknamed Moby that was trapped in the Firth of Forth has died. He got stuck on mud flats and suffocated a short time later. Wildlife experts said nothing could be done to help him. The warmest bank holiday weekend for 8 years ended in a traffic jam for many people this evening, but motoring organisations say it could have been far worse. Many people extended their holidays to make the most of the weather. Here's Caroline Kerr.
This evening saw the sad end to most bank holiday weekends. Traffic jams on major routes as people made their way home after the Easter break. The holiday itself has been unseasonably warm. On the south coast, hundreds spent the day at the seaside, enjoying temperatures more reminiscent of early summer than of spring. As students and tourists went punting in Cambridge, the Met Office said the whole month had been warmer and drier than average. But in Scotland, they paid the price for the lack of rain. 2 moorland fires broke out in Banchory, west of Aberdeen, and destroyed 220 hectares of forest land. But for most of Britain, there's no doubt the weather has made the holiday weekend. Although Easter has fallen early this year, with temperatures rising as high as 16 degrees Celsius, it's been one of the hottest and sunniest in almost a decade. And the forecasters say in the south at least, temperatures will rise even higher tomorrow. Caroline Kerr, ITN, Central London.
Racing and the English trainer Jenny Pittman surprised everyone, including herself today, when she won the Irish Grand National. Her horse Mudahi, furthest away from the camera, looked as though it came in second, but the photo finish showed it had in fact beaten the other horse, Amble Speedy. And that's it for tonight. From all the team here at ITN, good night.
Hello, good evening. It's been a dry, sunny sort of bank holiday for most of the country, although duller and damp for the far northwest. Now, overnight, we'll see that sort of weather moving south across the rest of Scotland, that rain turning lighter as it moves, and further south then, those clear skies making for another cold night, with a touch of frost and a good deal of fog too, especially near that south coast. So after a misty start to tomorrow, I think the southern half of the country settling into a dry, bright sort of day. Further north, a murky start, but even here things will brighten up through the afternoon, with the best of the sunshine then away from western coasts, and the far north of Scotland turning dull and damp later on, and windy here too. Elsewhere though, mild with top temperatures in the south of 16, maybe even 17. Looking ahead then, after a misty start to Wednesday, dry bright again for most of us, with that rain in the far northwest moving across the rest of Scotland and Northern Ireland, finally reaching northern parts of England and Wales by Thursday morning. Thursday afternoon, it'll continue its journey south, turning lighter as it moves, with brighter, fresher weather moving in behind, and just 1 or 2 showers for the North Sea coast. That's all from me. Have a very good night.
Power gen, generating electricity whatever the weather.
We are going on a robbery with shotguns, and you buy a car?
A new writer, a brand new screenplay.
Right, everybody behave and we'll do you no harm.
I'd get out of here while you can, before we turn nasty. 66.
New voices will be heard. Comedy with a hard edge called 2 Minutes. Next Monday at 10:40 on Yorkshire.
Now on Yorkshire, our latest regional news from Calendar.
Good evening from Calendar this Easter Monday. The main stories tonight. Rail tragedy as 2 teenagers trespassing on the Cross Pennine track die. And cool as a cucumber. Just how many does it take to bridge the Humber? 2 families in the region are in mourning this evening for 2 teenagers who were killed on the Trans-Pennine rail line. A third youngster who'd witnessed the tragedy was found later, shocked but unhurt. The accident happened at a black spot notorious for vandals and trespassers.
Transport police at the scene minutes after the alarm was raised last night. A 15-year-old boy died instantly on the track, part of the main Trans-Pennine line at Holton Moor in Leeds. Ambulance crews gave emergency treatment to his friend, who was 13. He died on the way to St James's Hospital in the city. A third boy, also aged 13, who raised the alarm, escaped with his life but is severely shocked. Transport police said it was impossible for the train, which was travelling at speeds of up to 70 miles an hour, to stop.
The position where the accident happened is coming round a bend. The driver would have probably had about a second or two. He'd have had no chance of stopping.
We feel shocked, and our sympathies go out to the families of the young people concerned, and we are looking at why they were on the railway and how they got on the railway, and we're looking to re-emphasise our message to young people and adults as well to keep off the railway. It simply is not a safe place to be.
British Transport Police are now investigating the accident. Railtrack has also launched an inquiry. Both organisations stress the danger of trespass on railway lines. They say since Good Friday there have been 52 cases of trespass in this one area, any of which could have led to another tragedy like last night's.
A 29-year-old man is in a stable condition in hospital after a stabbing in Sheffield. It happened in a flat in Dyche Close in Jordanthorpe. Police are investigating. Sport now, and Barnsley have opened up a 4-point gap over promotion rivals Wolves after a 2-1 win at Reading. But Sheffield United's promotion hopes were denied in the Yorkshire derby at Huddersfield.
Less than a minute on the clock at the McAlpine Stadium when United's keeper Simon Tracy gift-wrapped an opener for Paul Dalton. This own goal from Lee Sinnott pulled the blade temporarily level, but Tom Cowan grabbed the winner for Huddersfield just 2 minutes later. Nigel Pepper went some way to make up for his red card on Saturday with Bradford's only goal against Stoke. That win keeps their heads just above water, but a win for Grimsby means that all is not lost for the Mariners. This goal from the on-loan Jason Lee on his debut helped Grimsby to a 2-1 win over Ipswich. In our other matches today, Rotherham were thumped 4-1 at Blackpool in Division 2, and in the 3rd Division, Lincoln beat Cambridge 3-1, Doncaster lost 2-1 at home to Exeter, Hull drew 1-1 with Hereford, Mansfield beat Hartlepool 1-0,
and Scarborough beat Scunthorpe 3-2.
And there were plenty of our rugby league clubs in action this afternoon. In the Super League, Sheffield Eagles were beaten 32-12 at St Helens. In Division 1, it finished Dewsbury 9, Hull 16, Hull Kingston Rovers 26, Workington 12, and Wakefield 10, Huddersfield 40. In Division 2, Hunslet beat Rochdale by 44 points to 17, Lancashire beat Batley 31-14, and York thrashed Doncaster 58. Finally, a man from Hull is desperately trying to raise money to go to Rally International in Namibia by lining the Humber Bridge with cucumbers. It took 4,466 cucumbers for Simon Dudley to span the width of the bridge with help from a team of 40 scouts. Simon came up with the idea after discussions with his father, who's a horticultural manager. Local cucumber growers were happy to donate their vegetables, and the job took just an hour and a half.
The bridge is 1,410 metres between the span, and we've been holding the competition to guess how many cucumbers it takes. And I believe it's worked out something like 4,460 or quite a few cucumbers.
Well, it takes all sorts. We'll be back with the region's news and GMTV at 6:15 tomorrow morning. Until then, have a very good evening. Goodbye.
All parts of the region will have a dry night with mainly clear skies. Towards the end of the night, though, a few mist patches may form, especially towards Lincolnshire. Westerly winds will be moderate in places at first and then will become mainly light as temperatures fall to a minimum of 1 Celsius, 34 degrees Fahrenheit, with ground frost becoming more widespread. Tomorrow will be a dry day for most parts with sunny spells. In Yorkshire, cloud will tend to increase in the late afternoon and evening, possibly giving a little drizzle on the Pennines. West to south westerly winds will be light or moderate and the highest temperature 14 Celsius, 57 degrees Fahrenheit. That's the forecast. Here's the summary. If you experience any interference with your reception, please call 0541 555 551. National rate charges apply to these calls.
Coffee not yet. You could get nicked for that.
Ow! Bank job's on! Oh, blimey. What the X this?
Listen, Almira, lovely little mover.
Shut it. Mark it!
Stop shouting!
I can't!
Handles like a dream, Gov.
Well, wake up and shut up. That's an order. Hello, Squealer.
What, Gov?
I said apple white. This is Parisian moonlight white.
I think we better get back to the yard, Gov, and get some more fuel action, Almira.
Shut up!
The delicate taste of real strawberries. It's captured in Carte d'Or from Walls. Carte d'Or. Tasting is believing. All the creamy, luxurious taste of real milk chocolate. It's captured in Carte d'Or from Walls. Carte d'Or. Tasting is believing.
A new wave of freshness is coming with new Jif
Mousse Pacific Wave. Just spray and rinse for a brilliant shine.
and a pure fresh smell. New Jif Mousse Pacific Wave.
The light is all red. Yours is too.
Yes, it's this nasty cold weather. It can make your hands red too if you're not careful.
Your hands aren't red. Are you careful?
This is.
Very. How's it careful then?
In cold weather, it's great at helping to keep my hands soft.
Not red. I've got an idea. Very wet. Have their noses
Relax. Learn to improve your memory. You've been forgetting to send me your galaxy swirls, but you can't forget their chocolate and caramel. You remember how I love them. You remember where to send them. See the swirl. Remember. See a roundabout. Remember. See water swirling in your bath. And go to the shop and buy galaxy swirls for me. New galaxy caramel swirls. Give in. Don't forget to wear a towel.
I work for Royal London. I come from round here, so I know these people really well. And because I know them better, I can advise them better.
Royal London Insurance.
They're back in a brand new series. Stopping sinister smuggling.
These are basically chalk.
Pills that will kill.
We need some action fast.
Expect the unexpected!
This is now murder. We may be about to find ourselves awash with counterfeit medicines. Suspicious mind. Protect everybody.
The Knock. A new series, Sunday at 9 on Yorkshire. Now on Yorkshire, Robocop 2, a violent vision of urban America set sometime in the future. The film contains strong language.